Good morning, City Church. Welcome to another Sunday of worship. I hope that many of you are able to be worshiping with others, whether that be in homes or in backyards. I pray that you have good fellowship with one another and with our God this morning. This morning, our call to worship is from Isaiah 40, and Isaiah 40 is a proclamation of the greatness of God. In verse 28, Isaiah says, "Have you not known, have you not heard? The Lord is the everlasting God, the creator of the ends of the earth. He does not faint or grow weary. His understanding is unsearchable." And in a time where it seems like there are so many things going on that we are powerless to control, we have the hope of confessing a God who is over all of those things. He is in control of everything. He does not faint or grow weary. His understanding is unsearchable. None of these things are a surprise to our God. None of these things is outside of his control. And so we rest in that. We rest not in our own ability to control these things, but in God's ability to control them. Also in this passage, verses 30 and 31 are very familiar, especially if you're a fan of Remember the Titans like I am. "Even youths shall faint and be weary, and young men shall fall exhausted. But they who wait for the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up on wings like eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not be faint," which is a great encouragement to us as believers, that even when it feels like we're about to run to our end, we're about to faint, we're about to no longer be able to go on, God tells us that we will. But notice that we renew our strength because God's strength is in us. In verse 29, it says that He, that's the Lord, He gives power to the faint, and to him who has no might, He increases strength. Our only hope in life and death is that we are not our own, like we talked about last week, like Philip talked about last week. And so we hope not in ourselves, not in our own ability to do things, not in our own gifts or skills. We hope in what God has given us, that He will sustain us, that He will strengthen us when we need it most. This morning we are going to hear from Drew Martin. Many of you know Drew. Drew is a pastor at West Charlotte Church, which should sound familiar to you because 2 weeks ago we heard from Charles McKnight, or rather 3 weeks ago now, we heard from Charles McKnight, who is also a pastor at West Charlotte Church. Drew and Charles are co-pastors at West Charlotte Church, which is one of the church plants that we support. So I'm excited to hear from Drew today. Drew was a pastor at City Church before I got here, and has been a great friend and help to me in ministry. And so I'm excited to hear from him preaching from Psalm 147, a psalm of praise. Would also encourage you not to forget to give to City Church, to offer up our gifts to God, the gifts that He has given us. One of the reasons is that it sustains the ministry of City Church, that it allows us to continue to minister to one another, to continue to proclaim the gospel, to continue to meet needs in our community. But another reason is because of the way that City Church gives outside of ourselves. Drew and Charles are a great example. We support West Charlotte Church as a church plant that is not self-sustainable yet. So this is one of the ways that when you give to City Church, we are able to further the kingdom even outside of our own walls. So let that be an encouragement to you today to give. I pray that your time of worship is a joy and an encouragement, and that you have fellowship both with each other and with God.